Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Glad to have you. I'm Paul Rocchio with the International Franchise Association. Today's presentation is part of IFA's 2021 Economic Outlook webinar series based around the newly released 2021 Economic Outlook on Franchising report. And we'll focus today on the retail food products and services sector. Two quick notes before we get started. We are recording today's webinar, and it will be made available to IFA members later this evening on community.franchise.org. And if you have any questions during today's session, please use the question box, and the presenters will address the questions towards the end of the webinar today. Today's purpose is to give you an overview of the report findings specifically for the retail food products and services sector. And then you're going to hear from your peers within the sector on their experiences over the past year. And I can't believe it's been over a year already. And what adjustments they had to make to stay operating, and where they see the franchising economy moving forward. For a high-level overview of the full report, you could all view the recording of our May 18th series kickoff webinar at community.franchise.org. But we do have a few key points right now that I'd like to cover with you regarding FranData's findings. So FranData predicts that by year end, franchising will have recovered to nearly 2019 levels in most metrics: business growth, employment, economic outlook, and contribution to GDP. And then franchising is expected to experience the highest upswing of franchise sales since the last recession. And the retail food products and services sector certainly is contributing to that prediction. As the second largest sector in the franchising industry, the retail food products and services sector, franchise establishments in this sector, and this is just amazing, are expected to grow at a rate of 3.3% in 2021 to about 163,000 establishments, which nearly triples the 2020 estimated growth rate. I just find that to be just unbelievable. And it just shows you the power of the business format franchise model. And also franchise employment in this sector is also projected to increase, adding more than 100,000 jobs, a growth rate of 10%. Again, it's just amazing. And growth is expected to pick up here in the next few months as vaccines continue to roll out and become more widely available, restrictions lessen, and people get out and about more and more, which of course we're all looking forward to. And these are all great predictions for this sector, and a lot to work towards. So on that note, I'd like to introduce our awesome retail food products and services sector professionals who have kindly joined us today to talk a little bit more about their perspective on the franchise economy as a whole and within this sector. So today we have Tariq Fareed, founder and CEO of Edible Arrangements, Barbara Ann Goodrich, CEO and co-founder of Moran Family of Brands, Paul Pickett, Chief Development Officer of Wild Birds Unlimited, and last but not least, Shannon Wilburn, the CEO and co-founder of Just Between Friends. So, again, thank you all for joining us today. And on that note, I'd like to turn things over to you, Mr. Pickett. Paul, please take it away, buddy.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks to the IFA for putting this series on. It's always an honor to be invited. So I am a panelist / moderator. I picked the short straw in our first meeting. I'd like to just quickly go around. We've got a few questions to ask all the panelists, but let's start with some introductions, and we'll go in reverse order. But start with ladies first. Shannon, if you would introduce yourself and just give a little bit of a background and your brand, that'd be great.
Perfect. Can you guys hear me? I had to do the old school. Okay, Awesome. So yeah, I'm Shannon Wilburn, CEO and co-founder of Just Between Friends. And Just Between Friends is basically a marketplace for families to buy and sell gently used children's and maternity clothes, toys, and baby equipment. So we're not like most retail brands out there who have brick and mortar locations. Our franchise owners host events, which that's kind of a dirty word these days, but that's what they do. They host events in their territory 2 to 3 times a year and invite families in their community to bring their gently used children's and maternity clothes, toys, and baby equipment to the sale. And then they open up to the public, sell those items to the community, by the community. And that lasts anywhere from 3 to 7 days. They close things down. There's a charitable component to our brand, which I'm really proud of. But that's basically our brand. We have between 150 and 160 locations in 32 states. And I've been in the franchising space for about 16 years. That's it.
Thanks, Shannon. Barb.
Yep.
How about
Yes.
you?
Hi, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So Barb Moran Goodrich. I am the CEO and co-founder of Moran Family of Brands. My parents were in the business with me. They're right behind me, or right behind me there. And we are in the automotive business. We have 6 brands. We just launched a new one called Turbo Tint in January, and it's doing very well. We're very excited, and it's going to be mainly in the South with our brand with Altamir Automotive Outfitters. And so we also have Mr. Transmission, Multi-State Transmission, Milex Complete Auto Care. And we do co-branding. We do sometimes tri-branding, and our growth strategy has been one of co-branding more so between transmission and general repair. And we are across the country. We're in 26 states, and we have around 120 locations. Depends on how you want to count, individually or bulk together. And we're very excited to see what's going to happen for 2021.
Great.
Oh, we've been in business for 31 years, but our franchise system has been in business for over 50.
Great.
So.
Thanks, Barb.
You're
Tariq.
welcome.
Thank you. Tariq Farid from Edible Arrangement. Started in 1999, 20 years. And then, of course, in that journey, we've gone through the .com issue, and then, of course, the Great Recession. So there was a lot of learnings in those. Our brand, about 1,000 locations, Canada and US prominently. We have most of our products were delivered. Our in-store traffic was very low. And 50% of our traffic before the pandemic was web. And that whole infrastructure, the web infrastructure, and also having the e-commerce infrastructure really paid off, and our brand really did well over the last year, as we saw in 2008 and other times and everything. In gifting, a lot of pivots within the last few years to broaden the offerings. And have just the team's done a great job, and it's great to be here to share some of the experience and to learn. We have some great panelists, so it's an honor to be up with you all here.
Thank you. And my name is Paul Pickett. I'm the Chief Development Officer with Wild Birds Unlimited. We have been franchising since 1983. The brand was founded in 1981 by my boss and friend Jim Carpenter and his wife Nancy Carpenter. We just lost Tariq, but I bet he'll be back momentarily. I've been in franchising since 1989, so coming up actually next month, 32 years. We have 350 franchises open and operational across the US and Canada, and we are brick and mortar, backyard bird feeding stores, but with a, thank heavens, strong online e-commerce arm to the branch. Each one of our stores has the ability to have their own e-commerce platform under a branded and specified catalog of products that they can sell to their individual customers. So we keep the connection between the ultimate consumer, the backyard bird feeding resident, goes to our stores, fulfill their own online order. So we're not in the middle of it. It's not one of those transactions, but pretty standard specialty retail. So there we are, people. That's the four of us. So I'm just going to go around and we'll kind of do a round robin. And Tariq, I'll start with the first question with you and then just roll around and then we'll just go to Barb. But really just, Tariq, your view of the economic overall recovery for the franchising industry as a whole first, and then if you drill down into the view of your own sector, that would be great. So.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I mean, I'll reverse it a bit because I know more about what's happening in our brand, and I think it relates to all the other brands and everything. So within the industry, I have been optimistic even from last year in March, and I guess as franchisors, we always have to be optimistic. When we were selling stores when we only had 1 or 2 stores, so at that time. You go through these downturns and everything, but you have to really look. And my mother used to say a great thing. She goes, when it gets dark, always look for light. So I think with that, it's that type of concept that what can we do to pivot? And I think with franchising, as you see a lot of the small businesses that have closed, I think a lot of them are not going to recover or come back into it, or they're going to go into a different business. And franchising is just set up perfectly for that. From a location point of view, people want to, they want to shop at brands, and with the infrastructure is set up for franchising. So overall, I'm very optimistic. We actually just launched another brand, Incredible Edibles, as of last week, and I've been through, as I said earlier, I've been through a couple of downturns, and we've usually invested in those downturns. I mean, right now, if you just look at the ability to find locations about a year and a half ago, you couldn't get a location. The landlords were in control. And then if you had an IT infrastructure and you cleaned it up over the last year, it's only going to continue. So if you have e-commerce and other things, that's only going to do better. And one thing that I don't think we say enough and scream enough about is our ability to do last minute, last mile. Franchisees are last minute, last mile. We're in neighborhoods, we can deliver. It's just the infrastructure has been missing, right? So we either rely on Uber or others have come in and filled that vacuum. And if your brand always had e-commerce, then you're only going to do better. And if not, now is the time. If you needed any proof that you need e-commerce, now is it. And it's not going back. So I think the second wave, if you saw benefit from the first wave, which is you had an e-commerce or delivery infrastructure, the second wave is going to be people coming into the stores. And we saw that this Valentine's Day was normally about 10% of the people will walk into our stores. Everybody would just order online. We saw it close to 40% that people walked into our stores. And with that, we made it convenient with curbside pickup. Some of the things we would struggle at, last year, we got a lot of things done. And for our brand, nothing like the fear of failing, right? Or we're going to go under, and franchisees really franchise systems really come together. We had a pipeline of things for about 2 years, I would say, that we implemented within 6 months, be it delivery of whole fruit, going into other items. So we were able to get a lot of these things in, and I see that continuing.
Great. And Tariq, we're going to go back to a few of the individual things that you've done. So I am going to cut you off just to.
No, please do that. I don't want to shut up.
I told these guys that I'm bossy before we started.
Yeah.
This, I will be.
And we agree.
You're awesome. You got to keep us in
Okay,
mind.
It's nice to be friends with the people you spend time with on these things.
Yep.
Barb, talk to me about Moran Industries and what your outlook is, and then a step back, bigger picture. You're on the board of the IFA. You see so much more data and information than a lot of us do. What are your thoughts?
Well, I do feel that this year we're going to see growth, but it's going to be, I believe, in the first 6 months slower than we expected. January we did see a downturn a little bit with consumer spending, and I think that as we start to open up, we're going to have more activity, but we're still going to have people being cautious. And so one of the things we've seen in the automotive industry is there has been an increase for our business which I'm very thankful for all the activity we did during last year, set us to being able to see significant increases at our same store sales. And that has been wonderful for our franchisees. People are holding on to their cars. People are also driving their vehicles more. However, now we have this turn of gas prices going up. Does that mean that we're going to start seeing a shift in miles driven going back down to what they were prior? We did see a huge downturn in April and May of 2020, but when summer came, people started taking road trips and renting homes and all those things. So we are seeing that, at our store levels, their same store sales are increasing. People are holding on to their vehicles. They're doing a wait and see. Do I, take this money, this stimulus, and I put it in the bank and see what's going to happen, and maybe get the car repaired and try to hold out for another year. So we kind of are looking at and saying, okay, we're going to see some slow continued growth, but we're cautious at it. And we're making sure that all the things that we have done, and I liked what Tariq said, was when you're in a situation of, either tightening your belt and everything, taking action and big steps in, innovation and changes in investing is really, key. That's some of the things that we have done this year, this past year. In fact, we're going to be moving our locations. We bought a new building and doing the build out now, and we've done a lot in virtual training and a lot of investing. I mean, the amount of investing and e-commerce investing as well.
Yeah.
So
great, thank you. Shannon.
Yeah, so when it comes to overall recovery of the franchising industry, I feel like franchise retailers specifically, I think we've survived that kind of triage period that we've been in. And I feel like the pandemic it's still very much present. And we're going to have to continue to work around the nuances of what the pandemic has brought. Just exactly like what Tariq said about speeding up the changes maybe that you had in your mind or on your roadmap for growth for the next 5 years. I believe lots of retailers and those in the franchising space, we just had to speed that up, and we had to be nimble and we had to be innovative. Not just our brand, but many, many brands. And if I'm talking specifically about the greater retail sector, for us specifically, lots of mall, if you guys notice in your local area, lots of mall locations are struggling. They're struggling to get brands to stay because of so much bankruptcy. But what that has done for us specifically is some of those mall anchors are closing. And because we are in the event space where we go in and we rent a location for a short amount of time, that's opened up some opportunities for our franchise owners to come in and snag some great deals on venues, really kind of saving our franchise owners 30%, up to 30% off of what they might have paid previously for like a fairgrounds or convention center location. And so our ops department has been working really hard to create some of those relationships so that our franchise owners could have that opportunity. And I feel like for resale, because that's really the niche that we're in, the resale, I feel like it's super optimistic, but I'm an irrationally positive person anyway. So I don't know how much weight that carries, but I do feel really good. There's a brand out there called ThreadUp, which it's an online re-commerce type of brand, and they put out an economic report every year. And they are, in January of 2020, before the pandemic, they said that this particular sector, resale, was going to grow to be, it's going to grow 5 times to $51 billion industry. But by June, they put out another report and they said it's going to be $64 billion. And honestly, I really think that's because of when people have gone through this pandemic, they have related job and income loss. And when economic uncertainty is there, it really shifts consumers to value. And that's us.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. Thank you very much.
What about you, Paul?
A quick reminder to anybody listening, if you have questions, use the question box and we'll get to that. The panel will go for about 40 minutes, but we'll have about 20 minutes of Q&A at the end. So for me, my view on the franchise industry in general, and again, like Tariq, like Barb, all of us, we've been around for a while. This isn't our first rodeo, this pandemic. I mean, we've lived through the Great Recession, the dot-com boom. For us, avian flu was a major big issue that we had to deal with. And I think there is going to be fallout, right? But I think the fallout is those people who are who were not able to be nimble. They didn't have a value equation that was not only solid and in place, but also solidly communicated to the consumer. So I think that is a very important thing. I believe franchising will thrive. I mean, I'm in development. I'm the CDO for the company. We're having record-breaking lead flow and applications coming in. We had a solid year last year and an overwhelming first couple of months this year, and looking like things are going to be absolutely amazing. And a lot of existing franchisees expanding into opening brand new stores and purchasing other owners who, I mean, our owners, we'll get to this a little bit, but I mean, being in retail, it's been exhausting this last year. And so there are some people that are phenomenal franchisees. They're just tired. They're ready to go. And when somebody else is in an expansion mode, they're like, this is a great time. Things are going well. So I think for specialty retail, so that was my view of franchising in general. Specialty retail, I think it's going to be really dependent on, and Shannon, you said it perfectly, it's the value equation. Are your franchisees giving great experience at a reasonable price? Are they expanding the lives and enhancing the lives, of their consumers? So, and I mean, that's harder to, when you're getting your car fixed, I mean, it's hard to believe it's, your enhanced life, but guess what? You get it fixed properly, it's clean, it's great. I mean, I know Barb and her team and her franchisees deliver an amazing experience. That's what's going to be really important. So those of us, those franchise brands and systems that are able to empower their franchisees, give them the best practices and hold them accountable to the brand standards of delivering that to the consumer, I think are going to thrive. And there's going to be opportunity because not everyone's going to be able to do that. So we have a brick and mortar, obviously that's our main thing. Acquisition to real estate is improving. I do all the real estate, and 4 calls this week of franchisees who are looking to expand, expanding not just the number of units, but increasing the size of their brick and mortar footprint because they're so busy and the time is right. Like Tariq said, landlords are like, ooh, we're losing 2 or 3 units. Yeah, you can take on an extra 1,000 square feet. Great, and we'll give you a better deal. So I think it is happening. I'm really bullish. Both our brand is doing amazingly well, but just in franchising in general. And I think the retail brand, if the concept's right, and if you're delivering. So my next question, and I'll start with Barb, is just how are your franchisees responding to all this, and what are you guys doing at the franchise support center, headquarters, whatever you call it, to really keep them engaged, keep them focused, and at this point, keep them off of the exhaustion cliff?
Well, that's a very loaded question. I will tell you, when everything started a year ago, we operate in a nimble manner where we're moving very quickly. We don't have to go through this big, long process to make decisions. And we engaged through immediately developing commercials that were able to get on to their social media, as well as on, television and YouTube, and we got it out there within a week of everybody going into this shutdown. And we also were very engaged in communication nonstop. So our process, our support structure has always been about analyzing what is their smart numbers and where there's need for improvement. And so the franchisees, when this crisis started, they turned to us and they realized, wow, they really do offer a lot of services that I haven't utilized before and wasn't even paying attention, no matter how much we went out to them and said, we have this, we have this. And one of the key things we did when we realized how much we needed to transition our communication with them, we brought on a brand ambassador that their job solely is to call every franchisee, talk to them about what's going on in their stores, what's the new thing marketing wise that we're putting out there, as well as what type of support services we're thinking they may need. And then we have what we basically call a ticket, kind of like where IT does that, where it's a ticket going off to the right department saying, hey, this franchisee needs help. And they're engaging in that. They're calling us, they're saying, can you do an analysis? I think I know what my problem is, but I really want a better understanding. Or I think I could be doing more in business, but I think I'm having a production issue. And they're engaged fully with what we're offering. And they're realizing now how important it is for all of us to be a community and helping each other and working together.
Thank you. Tariq, same question, just, how are your franchisees responding and what are you doing to keep them moving all in the same direction? And we may have lost your audio. So I'm gonna pivot over.
Can you hear me?
No,
Yep.
perfect. Yeah.
Sorry. Responding great. Sales fixes everything, right? So, it does tend to, once the orders are coming in, the franchisees will adjust on that. But one of the things that has happened that we, about 6 months before the pandemic, we had decided to invest heavy in e-commerce because we saw the business going that way, convenience and everything. And the thinking was that maybe people will come into the stores as franchisors and franchisees. We're always location focused. And we had gone back to focus on the location, then we went to e-commerce, and that really paid off. And one of the things that I've always done is that you constantly have to be changing. And what I saw, back in 2001 or 2000 and also in 2008, that change, that culture of change and everybody wanting to change really helps in pandemics or issues or economic issues. And it was economic downturns, but the team pivoted real quickly because change is kind of in the culture, which is, I like to say that as soon as you say this, the franchisees are going to say, you're crazy, this is not going to work. We're going to have to prove it, but we're going to go do it. And then, and that's where the e-commerce really plays a role because you could test things real quickly. So one thing that's happened is I've separated e-commerce from store. Because a lot of times in our system, as e-commerce does well, everybody will look at that as a store order because every order, I think, Paul, you said that every order is fulfilled by the franchisees. It will count them as same. I'm sorry. So at the same time on so we pivoted towards that in March. Said we need to go and capture every order and go grow the sales, and we were able to. The team pretty much doubled the web sales. So about 3 months ago, I pivoted to say now everybody has to focus on reviving the store. So the stores have to get opened up, stores have to get decorated. Everything is about the store because if you could do what you did to the web, just imagine what will happen at the store because people will come out and they're going to go shop. It's just human nature. These bazaars and these shops and these malls have been around for thousands of years, and this is not going to change overnight. It may take a little while, but when people do come out, they'll come out strong. But you'll only be able to make sales if you're ready, if you have the product, if the store's decorated, you have the right promotions, right products, and also at the right place, which is the opportunity now to move the stores.
Yep.
where it was difficult before. So all of those things are sticking, and I'd love to see, and I'm thinking there's a second wave, that if you were able to take advantage of the first wave, there's a second wave that you could take advantage of. But in order to do that, we must do what we did to survive in March last year, which is to say put all resources towards the stores, because the web will keep going. But if we can grow that, that's all incremental, and they'll just layer on top of that. And we don't think a lot of the consumers we will lose them, because we went in and implemented a lot of technologies in this time, not knowing how long it was going to be. So looking forward to it. The franchisees have responded well. I mean, we're getting that issue, too many orders. We're like, well, adjust. That's not, a business owner never says that. There's no such thing as too many orders. Let's adjust and everything. And we've redefined. If we had 40 order a day goal, I went ahead and said, now we're going after 100.
Yep. Shannon, and just a note on time, guys, we have 10 minutes left and 2.5 questions left. So we may have to rapid fire through this last couple. So Shannon,
Okay.
Just tell me again your franchisees and go.
Yeah, so I will tell you that from our franchisees responding, I think our sales last year were down 37%. So it was not a great year for us, because many of our stores were closed. When you only have an event in the spring and an event in the fall, and you can't have an event in the spring, there goes half your revenue. So the fact that we were only down 37%, I took that as a positive. And this year has just been, the franchise owners were ready to jump out of the gate to get started with their sales this year. And the community is responding very well with stimulus money in hand to come shop at these events. So the events that are happening right now are doing better than expected. I will say that. So we implemented a lot of stuff last year, community calls, probably a lot of like what everyone else has been doing. We had a task force of 20 owners that really stepped up in a big way to kind of help us move forward. They were very engaged and wanting to help each other, which I love to see. Something that we've done that I feel like I just wanted to mention is this year we've implemented an innovation scholarship. So again, Tariq mentioned how all of these ideas that we have in our mind that we want to do, but it takes time and money and effort to do these things. Well, we have implemented this innovation scholarship where we're going to actually give funds to our franchise owners through, they have to submit their idea and it has to be approved, but that's, so they can kind of walk through a new idea with money in hand to try it, so that hopefully later that the rest of the system can do this. And I feel like, we're continuing to look at technology advances and strategic partnerships like venue relationships, like I mentioned earlier, but I'll let you go ahead and give your advice.
All right. And one of the, also, just back to Justin Brett, is that you don't have fixed costs, right? You guys don't have rent and utilities every single month and a lot of equipment. So, you could be down without having the gigantic challenges of managing through fixed costs like the other three of us have with actual brick and mortar full-time retail space. So it does make a difference.
Yep.
For us, we had a great year last year. Basically 20% same-store sales increases, gigantic migration to the online platform, and franchisees they never cease to amaze me how they just kick in and just do it. And our team here at the Franchise Support Center creating all these new marketing materials, addressing things. But I will say these are good problems, right? But they're still problems. And so there are challenges. Franchisees, it's exhausting, right? You're working with less staff sometimes, trying to manage higher sales, switching the model, because many of the stores actually had their showrooms closed, so they were doing everything curbside delivery, which we had never heard of before, and we had to manage through that immediately within seconds. Our retail concept system put together best practices on that. We did an A+ job, but it's been exhausting for them. And some of our franchisees this year, we're actually seeing an increase closer to 50% for the first 2 months of same-store sales over last year, just before the pandemic even hit. and they are tired. And so taking just that mental fatigue issue into play and trying to help them take a step back. I talked to a franchisee whose owner's income in 21 grew 6 figures. I mean, it grew 6 figures over
That's
the year
awesome.
before. Yeah, and he's like, I don't have time to be happy. I haven't celebrated. So I'm like, guess what? Stop whatever you're doing. Shut your
That's a good
door.
problem to have.
Yeah, go into a closet, and we're going to take a minute to just let this wash over you, and for you to say, I'm phenomenal, because you're phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
but they don't take that time because they're business people. As Tariq said, all they want to do is just push further and harder. And supply chain, it's a little bit of issue. We're ordering differently. We're running through things. So those operational changes were what got us through. And that being said, I think we also, as franchisors, we need to support our systems from an emotional standpoint, not just a P&L and best practices and brand standard standpoint. I think that is part of it, is to get like-minded people together, as you said, Shannon. I think that's a great idea. Getting some mentors, people who have figured it out, to help those people who are struggling to figure it out. And then I'll zip. I'm going to jump to the fourth question just from a time standpoint, because I'm really interested in hearing what you guys have to say about. We all sound pretty optimistic, right? What do you think are the potential big derailers that could come into play in the remainder of 21 and then going into 22? So Shannon, I'm going to start with you, please.
Yeah, I think I think I've answered every question with I'm optimistic. I'm an irrational optimist, so this question doesn't necessarily scare me. It takes a lot for me to think the opposite way, but I know that access to capital. We're a low investment brand, so our franchise owners are not having to really go out and talk to banks or anything to get capital. They just don't need a ton of money. But I think for us specifically, we took a tremendous hit in 2020, and the immediate future really is about recovery. I think there are some things on the horizon that we are worried about, like labor issues. People, if they're getting money in their pocket from the government, do they really need to work? Also, an increase in the minimum wage that's out there. I think that could be something to derail us. The labor issues, the joint employer stuff, all of that, AB 5, that's out there on the horizon. It's out there. So
yeah, can't be ignored. Barb?
I would agree with what Shannon had to say. I also am looking at gas prices as they go up. Miles driven go down, and that impacts our business model. But we're also having a significant issue in the technician area. I'm hoping that as they start to open up, that people realize and have come to realize that being an essential worker, being in the trades, is a very important aspect and an avenue to go. So we can try to offset some of this concern that we're going to have with the labor market because of technicians not being there for available. And also you have people that are receiving a lot of stimulus, and they're looking at taking a break because they too were exhausted, like so many. So
Tariq?
Yeah, so can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I have a little bit of a different approach here. I think last year, back at the beginning of March, within 2 weeks, we were sitting at how many people we have to lay off, how many stores we would close, what's going to happen, because no one saw it. I mean, no one could, see what was going to happen in April. And with that, in that survival mode, the team did amazing things because they kind of went into the drawers, pulled everything out. What can we do right now? How can we keep the stores going? And we underestimate the resilience of franchisees. The great thing about a franchise concept is you have 2 layers. Either in order for franchise systems to fail, 2 things have to go wrong. One, the franchisor has to screw up, and then the franchisee has to follow that screw up. So there is always that check and balance. So I think with that, we were getting a lot of pushback as into what are you doing? And we didn't know. And we were saying what we think we have to do is something similar to before, because all you're thinking is everybody's going to lock down. We didn't know people were going to be buying what they're going to be buying. So with that, I think there's just this whole new approach and outlook on business, because if you think about it, people were paying higher for delivery, paying higher for product. Quality wasn't really that there as you're picking up and everything. So I think, we see a lot more opportunity to reinvent, to go into different sectors. And I remember franchisees in one of those town halls I was doing in the beginning saying to me, I don't care if you want me to deliver pizza, I'll deliver pizza. I just want to make money. I just want to survive. And I wish we had that kind of mindset before, because before that, they only wanted to do this one thing and be home by 2 o'clock. Where now they see that we've doubled sales and some of the franchises are doing great. So now there's this, culture that has developed. I think the derailers will be us when we slow down and when we kind of go back to some kind of a normal that everybody keeps waiting for. When is it going to get to normal? And I keep telling them, this is normal. This is the exact normal we always wanted. All our life we look for this normal, so that we go and we're talking about what the sales are, how to do things real quickly. So we've just rolled out this is how we're talking to franchisees now instead of visiting them. And this is how we're looking. We just rolled out Teams where every franchisee is a video conference. They can call in and everything. And so we're connected to everyone. So I think the derailers will be us. And then when we start to take the, foot off the pedal. And that's what I'm fearful of, because the exhaustion is within my team as well. But we need to fire. We need to, keep growing. And I think it's a great opportunity and, and to stay out of our way.
I agree completely. I think that the biggest derailer is taking your foot off the gas. I mean, right now is the time to put the pedal to the metal, as they say. And the second you pump the brakes is that's the time to derail. And we all talk so much about change, and I love the saying that I've seen ages ago that change is inevitable, right? We can't stop talking about change. Growth is the optional issue. So focus on the growth, not the change. The change was going to happen whether you wanted it to or not, right? And I mean, certainly the pandemic maybe accelerated change, but it also gave us the opportunity to accelerate growth or decline, depending on how you approached it. So I think that is an issue. I don't disagree that access to capital, I mean, these are things but these are things we can take care of, right? I mean, we can manage through that. We can make good deals, focus on unit economics with our franchisees. So you have good stuff in a bank credit report if you do that with Friend Data, or have good tools in place to get financing, and drill down and be tighter on focusing on the support you give your franchisees so the unit economics are better. So buyers want to talk to your brand, right? Just make it happen. I believe it's completely within our own power for the most part, and then just working through with IFA and the government relations on some of the other issues that are going to challenge us, right? The California regulations and all of that kind of stuff. So, well, if I'm not mistaken, we're right on time, or just a little bit out. I think, Paul, is it time for you to come back and do the Q&A?
It is.
Just mysteriously appears.
Perfect timing, Listen, before we jump into some of these questions, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all you guys. That was very enlightening. I found it enlightening. And at the end of the day, what I love about the community is, yes, you all have derailers specifically within your businesses, but you're all still optimistic. And that's just something I love about franchising. So thank you all for your feedback. So let me jump into this first question, and this is from Kevin. So thank you, Kevin. Fantastic description of how the panelists adapted to the 2020 conditions. What do they see as the point of focus for initiatives in the second half of this year of 2021 and moving into 2022? So I'm just going to open that up to all of you, but since Shannon, you're in the upper left-hand corner for me, I'm going to start with you, okay? Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So-
I got it.
You're good? Good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
For
Thank
us,
you.
yeah, for us, something that we talked about where this really did a fast forward for some of our innovative ideas. We had tried online resale in the past multiple times and with not really great success. And that was really probably due to us not putting a big focus on it. But the pandemic, when your stores are closed down and the only opportunity you have is to sell online, it's really difficult. Like regular retail online is done all over the place because it's new. You don't have to worry. In online resale, we call it the snip and smell test because people want to hold the baby clothes, smell them, turn it over, make sure there's no stains, holds, rips, tears, all that kind of stuff. And you have to kind of overcome that in the secondhand space. But places like the Real, ThredUp, Poshmark, those types of places have figured out a way to do it. And so we had to kind of jump into that space, and we don't own the product. So we don't, take ownership of the product in a consignment space. So that is something that we tested out just in June and July. Talk about the franchise owners being innovative. They tried multiple different ways to do this without owning the inventory. And we're continuing to work that out through our technology. In fact, the meeting that I had right before this was kind of talking through some of that with my ops team and how that could look to test that out in a bigger way. So I really feel like for us, we're kind of in the sharing economy. And I feel like people are going to be doing less outright purchasing and ownership of items, that don't get consumed, like edible arrangements and birdseed, but they're going to be doing more limited time experiences. If you think of Spotify, Netflix, Airbnb, I think we're kind of in that same category. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's kind of what we're thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Paul, how about you?
I think every brand is unique in this, and for us, we had a massive increase in new customer acquisition, and brought on a lot of people were home, people who had time with their kids at home, especially in the spring, saying, "What am I going to do with my children for all these hours?" And they got into the hobby, and so for us, it's fostering those. And again, my team is cranking it. We have a whole journeys unrolling next month in April on these new customers, and continuing to engage with those new customers in a different way than we had to engage before, because we're still, people don't want to have big groups. We used to do a lot of presentations, and so we were doing them online. So just continuing to figure out how to engage and provide that information, education, as I talked before, adding value and adding understanding and the joy that we provide to our customer base of engaging with nature. How do we just optimize that, make it simple, make it easy to implement for our store owners, and then the continued training and skill set development of building an enterprise with our franchisees, because a lot of our stores, they wanted to have a birdseed store so that, more mom and pop, and it's hard to do if you don't have the systems in place. It's hard to handle this extra revenue and this extra volume. So that's where we'll be focusing a lot of our energy from an operation standpoint. And of course, just managing through supply chain, which anybody who deals with supply is dealing with supply chain issues, and helping our franchisees figure out the ordering functionality and frequency and things like that. And then new product development, that stuff never ends, right, when you're in retail.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thanks. And Barb, how about you?
We're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and that is jumping into everything that we see happening in technology that we know would help us to be better at our support services, help our franchisees in lead generation. Also, we're going to be, we have been, and we're going to continue to push forward in what is it going to look like when we, in repairing vehicles, as electronic and electric vehicles are coming more into play. So we'll be dissecting that and just pushing forward with, you have to be able to move quickly, and we're going to keep doing that.
Excellent, thank you. And Tariq, how about you, my friend?
Yeah, so I think operational challenge, I'm trying to focus the team not to think operational, because last year at this time, we weren't thinking operation, we were thinking survive. And then as you start to thrive, the operations people adjusted. Our franchisees are pretty resilient when it comes to supply chain issues. We have to deal with snow, we have to deal, with other issues, weather and everything when, in the middle of Valentine's Day. So they always adjust well. The problem they want us to solve is the business. Like, how do I get more orders? How do I make more money? So that's where I want to focus the theme. And one of the things that I've done, which I was trying to do for a long time, couldn't, is to remove the word average in our system. Because what I found out is after 5-6 years, when I had to go deal with a bank, they looked at, what's your average unit volume? I'm like, average unit volume. But let me tell you about the ones I follow, the 20, 50, 100 that do really well. No, we want to know average. And slowly it became average. So now, this is kind of a gift from God, because if I ever went to my CMO and says, how much money do you need to help us grow by 40%? He would probably say, no, I can't do that. Where you end up growing in a pandemic by 40%. And it's like, so the opportunity is there. There's customers out there. They're either looking for value. So we're doing two things. Number one, we, as part of this recovery, as Shannon said, people are going to probably have less money. In order to sustain this growth, we're introducing an under 30. So this whole thing that we franchisees didn't want to touch before, that we want everybody to get product, not just those special occasions. Second, no such thing as average. We want to go look at those stores that are doing $1 million, and everybody has to copy that. Put them in the right location, put the right products in. So define what the destination is, not be defined by the journey, right? That's what was happening. At the end of the year, we looked and so our average sales are this. Well, what's it supposed to be? Well, we didn't think about it. We just wanted to climb by 2% or 4% or 5%, redefine that. And third, as Barb said, technology, everything. Because the amount, what we went through now, and how much technology was able to connect us, survive, thrive, all those things, it was technology, everything. We've just introduced a concept called Smart Ship, and we got sued by the franchisees, the Franchise Association. But all it was that, how do you know what inventory to order? We're going to go use algorithms and technology to kind of auto ship products to you. And it's going to be smart. And if you don't sell it, we'll take it back. But let's make this system so smart that it can automatically predict what you need, because if you don't have it on your shelf, you can't sell it. So we can't sit and celebrate how many people came in. We only celebrate how many people bought, how many people service. So with that, we need product on the shelves, and we're going to leverage technology to do that. And that's just worked out phenomenal. So I think getting rid of average, setting a number to say our now average unit volume has to be 800, not even average. Your unit has to do $800,000. We're going to help you to get there. And if it means that you're in a bad location, move. Now is the time. And then the third would be that, how do you leverage technology to help them focus on the business instead of sitting there worrying about, I ran out of this, I ran out of that, but then make it where it's on terms, it shows up automatically, and be willing to take it back if it doesn't sell.
Excellent.
I'm
Thank you.
taking notes.
Oh, go ahead. Oh,
I said I'm taking notes.
yeah. Likewise, me as well. So the next question, and let me preface it by saying I think you guys have kind of addressed some of this, but it's still a good question. It's from my good friend Lou. Does the panel recommend that franchise brands in the retail products and services sector continue to pivot and innovate when things open up completely? So let me start with Barb. Let me start with you, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the answer is yes. Absolutely. You're constantly having, again, we talked about, I said earlier, it's all about growth. You can't grow without doing new things and trying new things. So 100%, that has to be the culture. For us, we're retailers. Customers get bored. They want the newest, they want the latest, greatest. They want the new and improved. They want the new flavor, the new look, the new color, the new style. So yeah, absolutely continue to pivot. So we're also tired of that word, but Yeah, keep changing, keep being nimble, keep doing cool things, making your brand better. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Barb, how about you?
Well, I have a saying that I actually am looking at right now. It's on the side of my computer. It says, standing still is the fastest way of moving backwards in a rapidly changing world. And you know what? I've always believed that. It's a little statement by Lauren Bacall. And so you have to constantly be looking at, number one, how to serve your customer and how to serve your franchisee, and also what innovation is coming, and you can't be left behind. If you're left behind, then you're done. There's only two ways you're going. You're either going up or you're going down. So, yep, we'll be continuing to focus on these things. Innovation is extremely important. How customer delivery for us is another avenue of importance. We pivoted, the famous word, very quickly in how we delivered vehicles being repaired to the customers, and also making sure that they felt safe in having the vehicle brought to us during that period of time. So, yeah, we're going to continue, and people really need to look at what is the customer wanting and how do they want it delivered to them and the experience. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Tariq, how about you?
Yeah, first, Barb, as soon as you start picking up, I think that's brilliant, that whole picking up of vehicles. I mean, I don't think anybody does that. So I think that whole pickup and delivery is the way to go. Didn't think about that in the automotive industry. So look, I think, you know, isn't it weird that we all think pivot is kind of an overused word, even though that's the word? Change is what people fear. Even though we change, we, you know, kind of wake up one day and we don't look the same anymore. You know, so I think with that, we know that change has to be there. And if change could be replaced with the word pivot, because last year when we started using the word pivot, franchisees thought we were cool. So we're going to use pivot. I mean, like, what are you doing? Pivoting. You know, that's what I'm doing right now. So I think, you know, so a lot of these things we've talked about, that, you know, the implementation of just the culture change. I think everybody needs to stop now and just change the culture in their organization. Say, there is no longer, you know, for some reason our FDDs, we have this every 5 years or 10 years, we're going to have you update your store. I think the stores need to update every week. You know, I mean, like if they're, and I'm talking about minor adjustments, just the way we do it. You know, and Paul touched on this, you know, change-wise, you know, the first iPhone, that little iPhone that came out in 2006 or 7, whenever it was, that would work perfectly fine for calling people, texting people, but we bought 11 versions of it up to now, and we've paid more money. So it's every year people line up to buy it. So we have to do the same thing in our stores and our web. And I see we change the website a lot. So 2 things. Number 1, disconnect your e-commerce from your stores. You have to treat e-commerce, because there you can make change very quickly. You can test things, move things. And we didn't do it because a lot of times our team would look at things from the reaction of the franchisee, not the reaction of the customer. So what we changed was, it's the reaction of the customer. If we're going to sell more and we're making money, do not worry about the reaction. We're going to have to mitigate that anyway. We're going to have to worry about that. But at the store level, that's where the franchisee's in control. That's where we have to do a lot of work to market the marketing, grow, but they're set goals, because a lot of them don't set goals to say, you need to be doing this much and we're going to help you get to that goal. So I changed our team. Our support team is not called support, it's called the grow team. Because the last thing I want you to do is support them. I want you to grow the stores, and I want you to help them grow, because when they're supporting, they're waiting for phone calls. When they grow, they know that every store has to grow. And we're looking forward to achieving similar goals to what we saw on the web in the stores now as people return.
Excellent, Tariq. Thank you. And
I don't want people to stop saying pivot and say migrate, so that all the time they're thinking about migrate and birds, and then birds are more in everyone's brain.
So
Okay.
migrate. I like that.
That's what you should be doing, right? Birds do it twice a year, and that's what you need to do.
So Shannon, on that note, migrate. Do you have any words of wisdom regarding migrate?
I love how Wild Birds is getting some play here. I think, first off, having to follow these 3 to talk about change. I really am taking lots of notes. I love what Tariq said earlier in one of his questions, that change is in his culture. And I need to be more of that mindset and lead my franchise owners in more of that mindset. I think in our particular brand, change is difficult, and it might be honestly because we do business 2 times a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And so when you make a change, if it doesn't work well, you don't have a lot of time to recover. And so I think that's part of what our franchise owners, our specific franchise owners, deal with. But they did lots of pivoting, lots of migrating, lots of changing this year with curbside pickup. We got rid of the word event from almost all of our marketing materials, and now we're retail or sales nomenclature, just because we don't want the consumer to hear event and think, oh, I'm scared to go. Right. So we are like, if Nordstrom's is open, we can be open. And I think just having things like, for our particular brand, when a franchise opens on a pre-sale day, there's usually a long line because there's a limited amount of inventory. So the best deals go first. And so you have people standing in line, not socially distant. So we put in some technology that where our franchise owners could schedule their checkout line. So you would get a text when it was time. You could sign up to come to the checkout register. When you were done shopping, you would let us know, and then it would put you in a virtual line. So you could stay shopping. Why have we not always done this? It increased our sales by about 20%, our per transaction by about 20%. Yeah. And so I don't know that all of these changes are going to be here to stay with the rollout of the vaccines, but I think lots of it's good. It's good changes, and we found additional revenue because of it.
Well, excellent. So listen, on that note, I cannot thank you all enough. Excellent job, Barb, Shannon, Paul, Tariq, thank you so much. And everybody who joined us today, thank you. We appreciate your time. I hope you all found this as interesting and helpful as I did. And please know that we did record today's webinar. It will be made available later this evening on the IFA member-only microsite, community.franchise.org. Of course, you could download the PowerPoint presentation off of this platform as well. And if you're interested in any of the other sector spotlight webinars, here's the schedule. And we do have recorded links of the previous webinars on the microsite as well. So on that note, can't thank you all enough for your thought leadership, and good to see everybody's faces, and really looking forward to hopefully seeing you, and I know I will, in person later this year. So again, thanks everybody. Stay well.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Have a great day.